On today's episode,
we are picking up with the Epstein Club documentary. I believe this is part 7 now that we're on.
She walked into Epstein's office when Ford and Blatz were in there, and Epstein and Maxwell started telling Maria Farmer that her sister Annie, another victim of Epstein's, could get a modeling job through Katie Ford. And I'm just going to play this for you. Just watch this. I don't even have to get into that to explain how strange that is to you. Pizza party for kids at Andre Blatz's hotel.
You don't need a formal conspiracy when interest
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We are picking up with the Epstein Club documentary. I believe this is part 7 now that we're on. And we are about an hour into this 45-minute documentary. We stopped at about the part where we're focused on this character, Andre Balaz, and his wife, Katie Ford. Katie Ford, her family, either her mom, she might have inherited the business, runs a modeling agency. Andre Balaz is some type of high-profile hotelier, and these two are a couple, and I believe part owners of the box and closely associated with Ghislaine Maxwell and through Ghislaine, Jeffrey Epstein. So we've been focused on talking about them. So that's where we'll be picking up. We left off last time talking a little bit about Whitney Webb. I did quite a digression on her. She is fantastic. Check her out. Check out Unlimited Hangout. Go buy her book, One Nation Under Blackmail. Comes in 2 parts. Fantastic book. Extremely difficult read, but worth checking out. A lot of great information in there. So that's what we'll be picking up today. I want to say real quickly, I'm going to try and really not comment much in today's video. We're just going to power through till the end of this documentary, or close enough where I'm willing to call it. I think we've gotten as much as we're really going to get out of this, and I don't know how much more deep analysis this really requires. I think we get it. Frankly, this whole experience has been really, experience of creating this series so far has been really enlightening for me in terms of where I want to take this part of my channel's content, what I really want to do with this segment of content. We're going to continue to have the short form stuff, both, sort of random conspiracy TikToks and then topic focused. I've started dropping that as well. I think we've had a 9/11 episode come out. We've had a Charlie Kirk episode come out. We've had a Gary Webb episode come out, an Iran-Contra episode. So obviously that's always going to be a mainstay in the channel. And then we're going to have sort of these more deeper dives where we look deeply into one specific topic and sort of analyze a documentary on that topic. This was always meant to be, this documentary specifically on the box, the Epstein Club by the Conspiracy Files, was always meant as a practice run. So I didn't have specifically high hopes. It was a new documentary to me about a subject that I knew nothing about. So I didn't know anything about the box. It's the first time I was hearing of it, and decided this would be a great trial run. And it has been a fantastic opportunity from that perspective, and really helped me solidify my ideas around what I want to do for this segment of content. And what I really want to start doing is really taking the time to move away from the documentary. So watch the documentary, understand the argument or whatever they're talking about, and then as they start to present evidence for whatever it is that whatever narrative they're putting forward, I want to be hitting the pause button and going and finding that evidence myself, looking at it together, and really getting our hands on it, reading it to the extent that we can, with depending on what it is, right? Some evidence sometimes is thousands of pages of court documents or emails or whatever the case may be, right? But really getting into the sources and drawing our own conclusions while we're simultaneously watching the documentary, so that we can compare their narrative to the evidence and whether or not they're drawing fair conclusions or putting forward a legitimate narrative. So that's really what I want to start doing more and more of. I didn't do enough of that in this documentary, but we did it a little bit. And I really am going to start doing that more and more as we continue this segment series on the next topic. I'm not entirely sure what the next topic is going to be. Probably Gary Webb and Dark Alliance. This being August 31st is Gary Webb Day. I didn't know that. It's my first year I've been aware of that. I learned about Gary Webb years ago, but I didn't know he had a holiday. So this month, ending in Gary Webb Day, I think makes a lot of sense to do a deep dive into the Dark Alliance story, written by Gary Webb, which is closely associated with Iran-Contra and essentially documents the process by which the CIA was essentially funneling drugs into the United States and getting money to support the Contras. As I'm sure that money went other places as well, but that's the Dark Alliance story, and that's probably what we'll be looking at next. And while we're looking at that, like I said, I really want to be focused on the evidence, getting my hands on the evidence myself, and really analyzing it myself and drawing my own conclusions, and then comparing that and obviously showing it to you as well so you can draw your own conclusions. And then we can compare that to what the narrative that the documentary is presenting, and either, agree, come to consensus with the documentary, or put forward our own differing conclusions. In addition to that, all of that research, I really want to start collecting and curating that research, in addition to taking some notes on these things, in terms of helping me keep track of my evidentiary analysis and conclusions that I'm drawing, and potentially putting together my own narratives that are going to compete with whatever documentaries that we're watching. Collecting all of that stuff, notes, my own personal narratives, evidence, and curating it in an accessible way with the ultimate goal of making this much more accessible to the public and to the audience of this channel specifically. I have an ambition, and this is very much like a stretch goal. I don't know how realistic this is, but I have this vision of this segment of channel being the place where we do this research together, and then, like I said, curate all of that evidence and that research and make it really easily accessible, put that on some type of website, some type of tool that all of us can easily access, and just start adding more and more topics there. And I think that could be a fantastic tool to do two different things. One, help us visualize the bigger picture, right? Like, it's easy to look at something like Iran-Contra in a vacuum, but it makes sense to, excuse me. It makes sense to look at Iran-Contra. It makes sense to look at Iran-Contra as a backdrop or a foundation for something like what happened in post 9/11 Afghanistan with the opioid crisis. Not Afghanistan, but from Afghanistan to the U.S. Opioid crisis in the U.S. fueled by the opioids coming out of Afghanistan. So if you're not aware, Afghanistan is the primary supplier of opioids. I'm forgetting the crop, the name of the crop, but it's heroin. And the same thing that's in opioid drugs, like Oxycontin. The largest supplier of that crop is Afghanistan in the world. It supplies like 97% of this crop. God, it's the same flower that they eat in the Odyssey, and I can't, I'm blanking on the name. It's irrelevant, but This crop is grown in Afghanistan. They supply 97% or something like that of the world's supply. Prior to our invasion of Afghanistan, Afghanistan had stopped producing this crop, and the supply tanked significantly. Once we invaded, the United States military secured these fields and amped production of these crops significantly. This happened to also coincide with the selling of opioids, significant increase in selling of opioids in the United States by the Sackler family and other big pharma companies and shareholders, and ultimately leading to the quote unquote so-called opioid crisis, right? So all of that, seen against the backdrop of Dark Alliance and the crack epidemic of the 80s, helps you see a pattern of behavior or an MO or a playbook or a framework by which elements of our government are operating. And you can see those patterns across time. And I think that is a difficult connection to make, and it requires some visualization, and I'd love, being able to sort of, zoom in and zoom out on the evidence and the story for both sections, and looking at it in a more detailed manner, but also looking at it in a high level manner. And, it's more than just a movie or a video on YouTube. It's more than just a documentary movie. It's more than just reading emails or whatever, right? It's a visualization tool that I'm sort of, imagining here that could be a part of this website that can help people sort of see the nitty-gritty and all of the details and all the evidence supporting the arguments and the narratives for specific instances like Iran-Contra, like the opioid crisis post 9/11, and seeing the bigger picture, right? Which is where you can really start drawing conclusions such as, so what, right? So I had a friend recently ask me, like, why do you bother studying this stuff? Who cares, right? So what? Like, you're drawing all these conclusions, so what? Big part of it is entertainment, It's like saying, we know the United States won World War II. So that's it. Why do you bother studying it, right? There's a lot of nuance to it, right? It's a lot more comprehensive than that. And I think the same thing goes here. And on top of that, it's understanding all of that nuance helps you see it and identify it today. It's still happening right now. These things are still going on right now. 9/11 still impacts you today. Iran-Contra still impacts you today. JFK assassination still impacts you today. The things that happened in World War II and post-war CIA, etc., OSS, all of those things are still impacting our life today, whether you realize it or not. The creation of the Federal Reserve still impacting you today, right? So being able to understand the historical context and the bigger picture, and being able to identify certain patterns from the past that are used across time can help you identify them in today's current climate as well, in my opinion. So that's part one of what I'd love this tool to be able to do, is that really just comprehensive tool in helping people understand all of this stuff, myself included. And part two is talking about it. Often I find myself talking about these things with people, and a lot of it is, forget about, we're not talking flat earth, we're not talking Bigfoot, we're not talking about UFOs, we're not talking about that stuff. We're talking about real conspiracies, Iran-Contra, MK Ultra, etc. When you talk to people about some of these things, quote unquote normies, for lack of a better term, right? People who aren't in the know about this stuff, family, friends, whatever, coworkers, you might be in a conversation and start talking about these. They look at you like you're out of your mind. That didn't happen. Like, what are you talking about? And Iran-Contra is a bad example because everyone's kind of heard of that, even though most people don't know all the details. But there are other elements of American history, global history that most people are just completely naive to, completely ignorant of. And when you start having those kinds of conversations, they find it hard to believe. And they often won't believe you. And the answer of, I saw it on a documentary on YouTube, often doesn't come across very convincing. And so that's what I think this tool that I'm envisioning, this website that I want to start building, that will be built off the foundation of this segment of content that we're doing here, can be a resource during those conversations. And those of us who enjoy talking about this kind of stuff with other people and who enjoy challenging other people's preconceived notions with these facts, you'll have that tool at your disposal. Imagine being able to pull out your phone and pull up court documents, pull up emails, pull up transcripts of congressional testimony, whatever the case may be, and put it right in front of your friends and family's faces and go, yeah, Iran-Contra really happened, and here's proof. Yeah, MK Ultra was real, here's some of the details on it. And that's a declassified document right there. So that's the second real value add, or the second pillar, or the second reason, driving force behind this tool that I'm sort of envisioning building. So all of this is to say that's really what I want to start doing with this segment of content. Like I said, this run of it is our first go with the Epstein Club documentary. So this was very much a practice run. I didn't do any real note taking. We did very minimal evidentiary analysis. And there's really no take home of this documentary, frankly. Besides to say that, yeah, it was interesting to watch. But it was, like I said, a very good practice run, but I'm ready to move on to the next thing and really sink my teeth in and start moving us towards this vision that I have. So yeah, I've been talking for about 15 minutes now. I said I wasn't going to talk too much in this video, but that's kind of what I want to do with this segment of content for the channel, is that type of evidence-based analysis of whatever documentary we're reacting to, and then note-taking, narrative drafting, collating, curating of evidence, and then making it more accessible. And we're going to be moving that direction more significantly on the next series. As I said, likely will be something Gary Webb Dark Alliance related, if not Iran-Contra. So that is what's on deck. I want to give the Epstein Club its due. So like I said, we're going to jump in here, but I'm really not going to comment much for the rest of the video. So like I said, we have about 45 minutes left to go. I'm going to shut up at this point. We're just going to breeze through this as fast as we can. Unless there's something really significant in here that requires me to comment, I really just want to get this finished up so we can move on to the next thing. So yeah, that's where we're at. All that being said, I have enjoyed this. I do think this was a great video. I think I took it to the extreme. This didn't require a 6-part series. I just talked too much, as well as, as you can tell already in this video, we're 20 minutes in. But it is what it is, right? So like I said, great practice so far, but let's power through here and get to the end of the Epstein Club, the most disturbing deep dive on YouTube. Let's do it.
Conversation with Whitney Webb. Farmer talks about a time she walked into Epstein's office when Ford and Balotz were in there, and Epstein and Maxwell started telling Maria Farmer that her sister Annie, another victim of Epstein's, could get a modeling job through Katie Ford. Maria Farmer makes the allegation that a complicit...
Maria Farmer, I have to comment on her if you're not aware. Whitney Webb is a real legitimate investigative journalist. Maria Farmer, I don't know as much about her as Whitney Webb, but the popular opinion of her, as far as I know, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments for anyone who may know more about her than I do, but as far as I know about Maria Farmer, She's sort of more of a faux journalist, faux investigative journalist who was on to Epstein even before Whitney, before many people she was writing about Epstein. Supposedly tried to help the victims. In reality, it looks more like she was trying to intimidate the victims in order to assist Epstein. So she's a really, really dark character, in my opinion. Not a fan. And if you haven't heard of her, I just wanted to call her out because she is a name that gets tossed around with Epstein quite a bit. When we're talking about those journalists who have investigated him, and she can end up being cast in a positive light that I don't think she deserves.
Ford is why Epstein and Maxwell were able to lure in girls under the guise of prospective modeling opportunities. Farmer begins expressing her hatred for Andre Balazs before the conversation veers off. Another Epstein survivor, Lisa Phillips, was brought to the island by a fellow model and abused by Epstein after working a modeling job in the British West Indies. Months after getting off the island, Epstein contacted Phillips and recounted that her dream was to become a Ford model. Epstein told Phillips that he knew Katie Ford and could help make that happen.
Ford
Jeffrey.
modeling agency.
Phillips recounts Ford saying in their meeting, and then we're going to talk about this in an upcoming video. Curiously, Katie Ford would eventually go on to start an anti-human nonprofit. Katie Ford and Andre Balazs hosted an event to benefit, quote, Free the Slaves, an organization, at the top of Andre Balazs' Standard Hotel in 2010, and very ironically, Ghislaine Maxwell was in attendance. And here's a picture of Maxwell at this event with Selma Blair right in front of her. Two recently released Epstein files, the same document that varies in the way it is redacted, version 1 and version 2 are linked there, show that a former Ford model, Deborah Lawrence, called in a tip in July 2019 about a 4-year-old female and a redacted modeling agency. While the redactions obscure some of the information, this tip apparently led to, or was supposed to lead to, follow-up inquiries regarding Ford's nonprofit. And Jamie states Andre Balazs and Katie Ford did not respond for comment. And then there's this really, really bizarre clip I got to show you that he linked here. This is a pizza party at Andre Balazs' Standard Hotel. And I'm just going to play this for you. Just watch this.
Do you guys like pizza? Wow. What's your favorite thing to drink with pizza?
Grape juice.
Who would you invite to your pizza party?
All of my friends from school.
What about Justin Bieber? You want him at your pizza party?
No.
So, I don't even have to get into that to explain how strange that is to you.
It is weird.
Pizza party for kids at Andre Balazs' hotel. And curiously, there's a line in there where a kid says, what's your favorite thing to drink with soda? Or what's your favorite thing to drink with pizza? And the kid responds, and they cut it specifically for this response. He says, grape juice. But multiple times
it did look
in
like
Epstein's emails.
I don't know that he said that
just show this to you.
specifically.
It's
I think
actually
they might
pretty
have cut
bizarre.
grape and then juice
Epstein
from two
Library.
different parts of the interview.
Epstein talks
created it.
to people in his orbit, like right here. And they mention getting pizza and grape soda. Someone says, let's go for pizza and grape soda again. No one else can understand. Someone says, what time do you want to get pizza and grape soda tomorrow? Another person writes to him, wash your hands and let's go get pizza and grape soda. Harry Fish pizza and grape soda tomorrow for lunch? Another one, first we get a slice of pizza with grape soda. So I find that to be just a weird little detail that you wouldn't even maybe
100%.
connect if you didn't know, where they edited this kid to, what's your favorite thing with pizza? Grape juice. And grape soda is in pizza and grape sodas in the Epstein files. I mean, it's just those little things that really add so much.
Yeah,
But
the coded
we gotta
language.
continue.
If that's
As
the coded
Jamie
language,
writes,
did they edit
Now
that
we're talking
video
about
to
a
make
guy
the
named
kids say the
Ben
coded
Elliott,
language?
and you can see
So
him
that
here.
people in
This
the
is Ben
know
Elliott
are
with
seeing
King
it
Charles and Queen
in
Camilla.
a certain
Ben Elliott
lens,
is the nephew
certain
of
light.
Queen Camilla and King Charles, a friend of Prince William, and the owner of an elite concierge company, quintessentially, that curates experiences and serves the ultra-high net worth individuals that can afford the membership. Even on the face of it, what they advertise about themselves is eyebrow-raising. As these billionaires have fried their dopamine receptors from constantly living the high life, Quintessentially is there to provide them with the experiences and, quote, extreme immersive scenarios, end quote, that they crave. Like one client who booked a £1 million kidnap experience lasting 3 months. Clients are psycho-profiled so that Quintessentially can curate these experiences accordingly. Quote, people are demanding that they are taken to the edge of their normality, end quote, co-founder Aaron Simpson says. And the guy who essentially founded that company and owns it, Ben Elliott, was in attendance at both previously mentioned events at the Box in December 2006 and at Ghislaine Maxwell's apartment in 2007. So here's Ben Elliott at that Box party that we talked about at the very beginning, and here's Ben Elliott inside of Ghislaine Maxwell's apartment. Ghislaine Maxwell attended the quintessentially U.S. launch party in 2003 at the art auction house Sotheby's. Sotheby's was also in Epstein's Black Book and was subpoenaed for their relationship to Epstein. So here's Ghislaine Maxwell at the launch party for Quintessentially, that billionaire experience service organization owned by Ben Elliott, the nephew of King Charles. Ben Elliott is in Epstein's Black Book, as is his Quintessentially colleague Luca Del Bono. Both Ben Elliott and Luca Del Bono have the Quintessentially title directly under their names in the Black Book. When Quintessentially teamed up with Deutsche Bank to roll out Quintessentially Platinum, described as their most personal exclusive service yet for clients of Deutsche Bank Wealth Management, Jeffrey Epstein was initially one of the first members to get the nomination in January 2015. Deutsche Bank's Chip Packard did do a house call to Epstein's townhouse in January 2015 as Virginia Roberts Giuffre's allegations were making headlines, and Packard would go on to recommend that Epstein's nomination for Quintessentially Platinum be removed amidst the negative media attention. But as always, things just get weirder. So Ben Elliott, the owner of Quintessentially, and the company Quintessentially have a long and intimate relationship with Simon Hammerstein and The Box, his nightclub. As a guest blogger for the New York Times in April 2008, Ben Elliott talked about how much he enjoys spending time at The Box and bringing friends there from out of town. Seeing their faces apparently reminded him of a show Quintessentially co-hosted with Hammerstein and The Box the year prior. Ben Elliott goes on to talk about how he once took Hammerstein to the premiere of a Rolling Stones documentary, and Ben Elliott has said in the past Mick Jagger is a personal friend, for Bill Clinton's 60th birthday. Interestingly, the introductory blurb to this New York Times blog describes Ben Elliott and Quintessentially and how some of the concierge's service members include Harvey Weinstein and Sean Diddy Combs. Is it a coincidence that two of Quintessentially's most touted members turned out to be some of the most prolific offenders? Or with both Weinstein and Combs' predilections being open secrets in the industry, was this a subtle advertisement of the kinds of services Quintessentially could provide? And you can see here, this is the blurb. Here's Ben Elliott. It's a global concierge service that counts Madonna, Gwyneth Paltrow, Scarlett Johansson, Diddy, and Harvey Weinstein amongst its members. Diddy and Harvey Weinstein. What a lineup there. Now, Ben Elliott has said that the idea of Quintessentially came from his time running London nightclubs and, quote, meeting people who seemed in need of some kind of service, end quote. Elliott's mentor in the business, Pierce Adam, had a business partner, Oscar Oweed, who was once dubbed Britain's biggest pimp and served prison time for running a multi-million-pound racket. Together, Ben Elliott and Adam own the clubs K-Bar and Cabaret with a K. These clubs seem to showcase similar acts as The Box would go on to do, with a 1999 article describing, quote, dwarves dragging weights across the stage using only their genitals, and, quote, a woman who massaged her metal-clad breasts with an electric saw, end quote, while future advisory board member from The Box, Jude Law, watched along reportedly unmoved. So you got Jude Law again popping up here. This time he's at one of these other nightclubs owned by this guy who's connected to The Box and to this network. Jude Law's watching, as they say here, dwarves dragging weights across stages using their genitals, metal-clad breasts being massaged with electric saws. So Jude Law's got some freaky skeletons in his closet, I believe. And then down here, I thought this was just an interesting little detail. In 2010, the Quintessentially Awards, along with the British Virgin Islands, awarded The Box International Nightclub of the Year. And you can see here Ben Elliott and Aaron Simpson, his partner, hosting the Quintessentially Awards at Freemasons Hall in London. I mean, this is like a line out of a conspiracy theorist's wet dream. These guys from this company with the British Virgin Islands, where Epstein's at, they awarded this club that's linked to Epstein the best international nightclub of the year. So you've got one awarding the other with an award, and this event is hosted at Freemasons Hall, which is...
Yeah, I think if you've seen enough of my videos, you know how I feel about the Masons. I'm pretty pro-Mason, actually. I don't prescribe to all of the conspiracy stuff, although I do like the history. I do like to find the connections between them and the Knights Templar, but I don't think that they're the Illuminati or running everything. It's, you know, they might have been much more powerful and influential in the past, but I don't think so anymore. That being said, in terms of what he's getting after here, yeah, the connection is kind of crazy. It's like a conspiracy theorist's wet dream, but it's I think the inclusion of the Freemasons Hall here is a little bit just superfluous. The Masons own or used to own property all over the world. America has places like this as well. In fact, I think I've mentioned I grew up in the Bay Area, and in San Francisco there's Masonic Hall, and it's just a venue. It's just a convention center where people host events. So there's only so many large places like that available where you can host an event, even in big cities. So yeah, you're gonna go where they are, and because you know, like Masonic Hall in San Francisco might be owned by the Masons. I don't know, but just because it's still owned Masonic Hall does not mean that the Masons actually still own it. They could have sold it. The building keeps its name because that's how people know it. It's locally recognized. It's historically protected or something like that. So it does not necessarily include or exclude any sort of Masonic involvement.
I don't even have to say any more. But the connections don't end there. The current CEO of Quintessentially USA, Lauren Wilt E. Brown, worked at The Box directly before getting employed at Quintessentially. Wilt's LinkedIn profile shows that she was a manager at The Box from March 2009 until September 2013, which is when she was then hired by Quintessentially USA and worked her way up to CEO. She described her job duties at The Box as overseeing all daily operations, including sales, bookings, hotel, and private concierge relationships, and website strategy. A swimsuit-clad Lauren Brown appears throughout a New York Post article about a reoccurring beach night at The Box where 400 pounds of sand were repeatedly dumped and then vacuumed up the next morning once a week. VIP hostess and promoter at The Box, Rachel Labovich, also transferred directly from The Box to Quintessentially. So there's quite a relationship there between this nightclub and this company, where you've got the current CEO having worked at this nightclub. This company awarded this nightclub an International Nightclub of the Year. There are tons of employees now at Quintessentially that worked at The Box. There were ties in the past. And then right here, you've got the Quintessentially CEO here, Lauren Brown, with Simon Hammerstein, the proprietor of The Box, and he is groping this man's crotch next to him, who is smiling. He's groping his own crotch, and it looks like he's moaning in her ear, which
very bizarre.
Is an interesting sight.
It's so weird that she's
and this
not
is really interesting
also
to me. So,
like
Quintessentially at one point had plans to construct a super yacht and name it the Quintessentially One. It was to be the world's largest floating private membership club. While the project never seemingly came to fruition, The Box was planned to be the onboard nightclub and was to, quote, bring excitement and entertainment with a twist to the high seas, end quote. 5 billionaires paid 10 million euros towards the building cost of the super yacht in return for their own private suite on board. Co-founder Aaron Simpson emphasized that they would be remaining anonymous until a bottle of champagne hits the hull. The archived website for the Quintessentially One explains that, quote, the jewels and crown of the super yacht are 12 stunning triplex apartments located on the top decks. These are available for sale to those looking for the most exclusive onboard residences in the world. End quote. In an article written to exonerate himself from his association to Maxwell, Nicholas Coleridge wrote, quote, "The last time I ran into Ghislaine was at a Sotheby's preview. She was as friendly and engaging as ever. She told me she was working on a project to build a luxurious floating country in the middle of the Pacific. The advantage would be zero income tax and zero inheritance tax, but you could only become a citizen if you had many hundreds of millions of dollars." End quote. Was this project of Ghislaine's the quintessentially one? While she referred to her project as a floating country, quintessentially spokespeople would repeatedly refer to it as the world's largest floating private membership club with residences on board for sale, and quintessentially has been accused in the past of assisting members with offshore tax avoidance. The last time the quintessentially one got any mainstream press coverage was in 2017, but in a YouTube interview from June 2019, Aaron Simpson confirms that the plans were still ongoing for the world's largest floating private membership club at the time. Wayback Machine collected data for the quintessentially one website came to a curious halt months later in the last quarter of 2019 when Epstein had just died and Maxwell was on the run. I find that to be very interesting. Yeah, so this is all talking about the quintessentially one. Look at all this spiking in 2017, 2018, 2019, and then right when Epstein's dead, Maxwell's on the run, it goes completely silent. Aaron Simpson responded to comment and said that Epstein and Maxwell were not clients of Quintessentially and that they had nothing to do with the planned Quintessentially One super yacht. Simpson confirmed the project was scrapped, saying that funding was withdrawn due to the COVID-19 pandemic. However, the Wayback Machine stopped archiving the Quintessentially One website as early as October 2019, and Simpson did not respond to a request for a more detailed timeline of the project's demise. Quintessentially, that company, has also had to answer for associations and allegations of escorting and trafficking. In 2015, Quintessentially created the website for an international escort agency called Le Besoin, which was registered at its London headquarters. When revealed by the Financial Times in 2020, they denied any further involvement in the agency, stated they had, quote, created a website for a client launching a dating service, end quote. And as recently as February 12, 2026, news broke that Quintessentially co-founder Aaron Simpson, who we've talked about a lot here, is currently in court battling allegations of money laundering and tax evasion. And Jamie reached out to Ben Elliott, the nephew of King Charles, who is obviously involved in the box, business partners with this guy who's battling allegations of sex. He obviously didn't want to comment. Then there's Simon DePury, Phillips, and Sotheby's. Simon DePury is an art dealer and auctioneer who was chairman and chief auctioneer at Sotheby's until 1997 and owned Phillips DePury Auction House until 2012. Phillips DePury co-hosted the previously mentioned October 2007 evening with Quintessentially at the box. And you can see here is the art dealer and auctioneer, obviously a very wealthy man. Here's Ben Phillips, or here's Ben Elliott from Quintessentially hosting the Quintessentially night at the box. In March of 2010, David Stern emailed Epstein with a link to an upcoming Phillips auction. Epstein then forwarded this email to an unknown person who went through and listed which lots from the auction they liked. The pieces auctioned off are still available for viewing online. Almost all the pieces are, of course, in nature, but some are more disturbing than others. Now, I can't show you this stuff on YouTube. This is going to be completely blurred. You can go look at this on Patreon. I went through the actual catalog from that day. It is just shocking how that world operates. I will never understand. Like in this image, this looks to be a fake baby doll with human legs, with its legs up. It's got a massive oversized and a fake that's in the top left there. Then the image next to that looks to be, it's a very, very creepy image. It's what appears to be a naked woman passed out on an old moldy bed with like horror movie lighting. She's got no clothing on. It's a blurry image. It looks like something from a snuff film. Then you've got the bottom left. There looks to be about 100 women laid out like a flowing river in nature coming down rocks. None of their faces are visible, but all of their private areas and their hair is visible. We can see, I think it's men and women actually. You can see all their private parts in graphic detail. And then the bottom right picture is what looks to be a geisha from Japan. And she's got her clothing splayed on the bottom. Her hands are tied. She's in some sort of bondage. I actually went and looked at the rest of the catalog. And I mean, it was just extremely graphic stuff. Things that you would imagine would be seen in like Playboy or Penthouse. Some of them were just graphic shots of women's. There was just up close pictures of. That's the entire image. A lot of really freaky images of people that look like they're passed out laying on beds. I mean, it's really disturbing stuff. And I also can't show this image above me, but it's an image of what looks to be a woman purposefully positioned without a head, laying face down, butt naked in some dry grass. It looks like a body that's without a head. And we're talking about that here, which is one piece from Dado Moriyama's collection Mayfly, depicts a naked, seemingly lifeless woman face down in the grass. It resembles a similar photograph seen in the background of another piece from a different Phillips auction with Simon Hammerstein's name on it. The shoot in question evokes themes of with the model Irina Lazareno in shabby clothing and sitting in a traveling case of some kind with intentionally placed frame photos in the background. So here's Simon Hammerstein from the box. Yeah, you can see a similar image up here. Nothing graphic for YouTube. And it's really weird. This whole shoot is just really weird. Isn't this? I definitely can't show that. Quintessentially has done multiple collaborative events with Phillips. Phillips provided the venue for Quintessentially Summer Arts Party in July 2008, where the artwork and exhibits evoked similar themes. So, this is the Quintessentially Summer Arts Party. I have to blur this image. It's literally a bunch of clothed people having drinks, and in the middle of the room, there is a guy with his hands tied behind him, wearing a mask or a bandage that's covering his entire head, and I think only his nose is exposed, but he's wearing nothing else, and you can see everything. I mean, his snake is just out there in this image. He's just standing in the middle of this room, bound and essentially gagged, buttoned, while people are just drinking and hanging out around him. And this is quintessentially that company, their summer arts party. Here's another picture from the same event, which I can show, which shows a woman, what looks like asleep in a bed with a tree in the middle of it and a horn tied up here. I mean, it's just so weird. And here's another photo from the same event. Another woman sleeping, lying down, passed out in the middle of the floor. Emails show that Phillips also had a partnership with Eva Dubin's Breast Center and held an auction where the proceeds would go to the nonprofit. And here's a picture of Ghislaine Maxwell with Simon Puri's wife Michaela in 2014. And that auctioneer responsible for those auctions and everything,
and I think they do that
declined to comment on all this stuff. Then there's Damien Loeb.
And people
Artist Damien Loeb has been pictured at numerous events at the box since its inception in 2006. He spent over 6 years taking pictures for the photography book on the box that was published in 2014 that is no longer obtainable online. Quote, Damien photographed the exotic and sometimes controversial goings-on, both on stage and off, from the dressing room to the balcony. Notorious for the behavior of its creator, hosts, performers, and clientele, the box constantly manages to titillate and entertain while pushing the boundaries of decorum. This book is a sexy and dark amalgam of the total experience that is Simon Hammerstein's The Box. Images by Damien Loeb. Here's the cover from the book. And one of the most disturbing pieces of artwork that Epstein owned was a piece by Damien Loeb named Little Miss Pink Tomato that's based on a real picture of an annual Arkansas child pageant. And as you can see here, this is the original photo. And here's Damien Loeb's painting, which I've talked about in the past, which is was owned by Epstein. This was hanging in one of his properties. I mean, it's probably one of the creepiest things that Epstein possibly could have had hanging in his house.
Disgusting,
that was so revealing. And I've said this many times. A way to look into these people is to look at what's on their walls, to see not only what they wanted to see all the time, but also the images that they want.
This is freaking me out. I don't want to look at that anymore.
And this is the painting. Obviously, we know Jeffrey Epstein had an obsession with the novel film Lolita. He had multiple copies of Lolita in his different residences. I mean, he nicknamed his plane the Lolita Express. So how bizarre is it that this guy, Damien Loeb, would paint a painting for himself called Lolita? He would also paint a painting of little girls in bikinis that Jeffrey Epstein would purchase and hang in his home. And the same guy would take the photos for the photo book of the club that Jeffrey Epstein was heavily involved in, that was one of the raunchiest, darkest places on earth. But it still gets even weirder. Simon Hammerstein's mother, Dina Hammerstein, Simon's the proprietor of the box, his mother runs a nonprofit called Only Make Believe that brings interactive theater performances to sick children in hospitals. Simon Hammerstein, the proprietor of the box, has often hosted fundraisers for his mother's charity at the box. In Only Make Believe's tax documents, that company owned by Simon's mother, it was disclosed that the company Palantir donated $50,000 in 2012 and $90,000 in 2013. It is unknown if Palantir donated in other years, where Only Make Believe didn't disclose their contributors. Palantir is, of course, the military contractor founded by Epstein associate Peter Thiel and Alex Karp that is involved in mass government surveillance through artificial intelligence and facial recognition technologies. I did a whole episode on Palantir and Peter Thiel. You can go watch that. That is one of the most evil, most ominous companies and really groups of people in the world today. So, of course, they pop up in this box thing. Palantir is ominously named after the all-seeing magical orbs.
Okay. We don't need
intelligence gathering company is interested in Dina Hammerstein's charity or Simon Hammerstein's businesses, where elites, power brokers, and foreign dignitaries let loose and potentially get into compromising situations. And I think that's a very good point. It's such a random, such a niche, such a small company for Palantir to be investing in. They invest into Simon's mother's charity and stuff like that, and give them all this money. I don't mean invest, they donate all this money. But did that somehow buy them access to the box?
I think
if they were really getting surveillance and trying to gather blackmail on the world's rich and elite and the culture,
stuff that's not great.
Putting hidden cameras inside of the box in the ultra private secret rooms where there are live acts on stage, nobody really knows exactly what goes on in some of those rooms or what has gone on in some of those rooms. They could have captured a lot of powerful people in very compromising positions. So this is like a different almost blackmail story within the Epstein story, which at its core is a blackmail story. And I find that to be highly suspicious. Now, one of Simon Hammerstein's business partners is Murtaza Akbar. While Palantir donated 6 figures to Dina Hammerstein's charity over 2012 and 2013, Simon Hammerstein and Murtaza Akbar would go on to officially open the Act in Dubai in March 2013. Aside from Palantir, there's another controversial Peter Thiel-funded facial recognition software company called Clearview. In 2020, amid lawsuits and controversy, documents revealed the names of 2 previously unknown members of Clearview's board of directions, one of which was Murtaza Akbar. Dina Hammerstein and Murtaza Akbar did not respond for comment. So the connections are there. Palantir is donating to the mother of the box's owner, and then the guy who opened the box opens up another club that's very similar in Dubai, and the guy that he opens that club with is one of the directors of a company that's very much like Peter Thiel's Palantir, Peter Thiel's Clearview. So in my mind, clearly this club, the Act in Dubai, is some sort of intelligence gathering operation or surveillance gathering operation. I mean, I don't know how you could possibly look at that any other way. And it just makes this whole thing so much more insidious, because not only is Epstein involved and not only is Ghislaine Maxwell involved and all these other people, but on top of all of that, you've got Palantir in the story as well, of this one nightclub in New York that expands so wide. There's also a woman named Nadine Johnson that Jamie Crawford talks about here. He states, quote, Nadine Johnson served as the publicist for the box and would speak to the media on the nightclub's behalf. In 2007, for instance, women had been kidnapped in front of the venue and been driven away to be raped on 2 separate occasions, and Johnson made a statement to the New York Post. Johnson appeared in Epstein's Black Book and has been pictured with Ghislaine Maxwell as far back as 1996. There are other pictures of them together in 2006, 2011, and 2014. Nadine Johnson was also pictured at the event at the Box that Maxwell attended in December 2006. Here's Ghislaine Maxwell and this Nadine Johnson woman. Here's another picture of Ghislaine Maxwell and this Nadine Johnson woman. Here's another picture of Ghislaine Maxwell and this Nadine Johnson woman, and she's the spokesperson for the Box nightclub. In 2015, Nadine Johnson was fired from her job as a publicist from another Lower East Side club, Happy Ending, after making unapproved comments on an alleged that happened there. She told Page 6, quote, "The CCTV tapes show clearly that the alleged victim was seen kissing at the bar with the employee and was seen entering the bathroom of her own free will. It shows a 90% chance it was consensual behavior," end quote. Nadine Johnson did not respond for comment. Then there are other people involved, Ann Dexter Jones and the Ronson family. In February 2007, another one of the first events held at the Box, within days of Andre Balatz's 50th party was a fashion show for Charlotte Ronson's upcoming fall 2007 catalog. A grainy video of this event was uploaded to YouTube with some strangely sinister music. And I agree, this is creepy. Just check this out. So yeah, that's the music that accompanied the footage of that fashion show. Pretty bizarre, right? Well, the woman who hosted that fashion show, Charlotte Ronson, her brother is Mark Ronson of Uptown Funk fame. Uptown Funk you up, Uptown Funk you up. That's her brother. And Samantha Ronson, along with their mother, Ann Dexter Jones, were all in attendance and would go on to be pictured there at numerous events over the years. So here's Mark Ronson from Uptown Funk with his mother, Ann Dexter Jones, at the fashion show at the Box. And here are the models from the fashion show. Like it says, the enthusiastic models. Yeah, they look very happy to be here. Now, the matriarch of that family, Ann Dexter Jones, is a well-connected socialite and has a long-documented history with Ghislaine Maxwell. They were pictured together with Donald Trump in 1997. They then continued to be pictured together over the years, socializing in 2002, 2006, and even as recently as November 2015. Now, it's therefore no surprise that Dexter Jones and her husband appear in Epstein's Black Book. The recently released Epstein files include a 2003 email from Dexter Jones to Maxwell extending an invite to an exclusive modeling event for her daughter, Charlotte Ronson's fashion line. Dexter Jones then goes on to say that at the event, they can make future plans for lunch, tea, or dinner. So here she is, the mother of the fam, with Donald Trump and Ghislaine Maxwell. Here she is, the mother of the fam, once again with Ghislaine Maxwell. And they state here, when Dexter Jones was reached for comment, she said that Ghislaine Maxwell never showed up to the 2003 modeling event and that the pictures with her were photobombs. She was basically stating that Ghislaine Maxwell just showed up and just took these pictures with them uninvited. But to me, this clearly looks like they're posing with her. They're all wearing the same sunglasses. They look very happy to be together. These don't look like photo bombs. They look like they were all talking and they were told to get pictures together. So Jamie also talks about Wendy Dang Murdoch. So Wendy Dang was married to media mogul Rupert Murdoch from 1999 to 2013. She is long rumored to be a Chinese spy, with U.S. counterintelligence officials warning Jared Kushner in 2017 that she might be using her friendship with him and Ivanka Trump to further the interests of the Chinese government. In 2014, a Vanity Fair article about Dang's marriage to Murdoch was published, which described how they led very different lives from one another. The article states that one of her favorite New York venues was the Box, and that when Rupert Murdoch would be waking up at 6 a.m., Dang would just be returning home from the nightclub. So here is Wendy Dang, wife of Rupert Murdoch, with Ghislaine Maxwell, rumored to be a Chinese spy, who frequently visited the Box. Dang was also an associate of Epstein and Maxwell's. Obviously, Dang appeared photographed with Maxwell in 2011 and on Epstein's schedule in 2012. Just a few days after Maxwell was photographed with her, Epstein emailed Maxwell asking if Dang could, quote, help get the Post off their backs, end quote. This was after the Murdoch-owned New York Post had just ran an article titled, Billionaire Jeffrey Epstein, I'm a sex offender, not a predator. Wendy Dang Murdoch did not respond for comment. The list of connections between Epstein and the box doesn't seem to have a clear end, with both celebrities and more anonymous members of the Epstein class. Mick Jagger appears throughout the Epstein files in emails, pictures, and the Black Book, and reportedly has said that the box is the best thing since Studio 54. Emails show that in 2004, Ghislaine Maxwell brought a girl to a film set to meet Ashton Kutcher, along with Bonnie Hung and Ellie Holzman, who worked for Harvey Weinstein's Miramax before Kutcher's Catalyst Media. Kutcher also used to frequent the box, with one article reporting on a 3-hour show attended by Kutcher and Demi Moore that had been restricted for only Hollywood celebrities and New York's hipster elite. Files show from Epstein's schedule in 2014 that he had arranged access to meet Alan Cumming in his dressing room after a showing of Cabaret at Studio 54. Cumming has been photographed at multiple events at the box with Hammerstein, and on his blog has called it one of his favorite places in the city. He hosted the 5-year anniversary party there. There he is with Simon Hammerstein, and here's Ashton Kutcher and Demi Moore at the box. Interesting that Ashton Kutcher has become a very outspoken advocate of crimes against kids. He's also best friends with Diddy.
Yeah.
Here he is
and
at this
friends
club.
with what's his name from that
the
70s show.
The links are there.
Recently
Other less
got
famous faces start showing up as a
for
recurring
SA.
cast of characters pictured at the box,
Kutcher
or
also
associating
was
with Epstein and Maxwell together with all these other
he
names
had to
mapped out as
testify
part of
in
the
a
Epstein
murder trial
class.
of a woman he was
For
supposed to go
example,
on a
real
date
estate
with. She was
tycoon
murdered
Abby
on
Rosen
the night
and his
of their
wife,
date.
psychiatrist Samantha Boardman,
And
interior
he
designer Carlos Moda,
sort
fashion
of
journalist
discovered it.
Hamish Bowles, nightclub
It's an
owner Amy
interesting
Saka,
story.
and English
He's a
aristocrat and
very-
socialite Victoria
his whole,
Hervey
like,
all
the
keep
new
appearing
Rat
to
Pack
various degrees.
with,
As Victoria
the
Hervey
other
said
guys
recently,
from,
if you're not in the
70s
Epstein
show
files,
and Diddy,
just means you were a bit of a loser.
Kind of
I
gross.
don't know if you've seen this clip. This is someone who's in the Epstein files saying this. Just watch this.
He knew everybody that was very powerful. So, like, if you were on the scene and you were powerful, like, to be honest, like, if you're not in those files, it would be an insult, because it just means that you were a bit of a loser.
Right, so the people who aren't in the files are
Yes.
Okay. Are you in the files?
Well, of course I am, because it's any journalist that wrote about it.
That's an astonishing attitude, isn't it? You're the loser because you're not in this. I find that jaw-dropping.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So
that's
it's a crazy
so
clip if you haven't
crazy to
seen
say.
it. And it's also very interesting here. There's also a long, intimate history between the box and Sean Diddy Combs, P. Diddy. Clive Davis and Andre Harrell were both music executives
Clive
and
Davis
mentors to P. Diddy
yeah,
that have been
exactly.
credited with his success.
And he's
Suge
got
Knight
a
has
really
alleged
dark
that Davis
past,
and
too.
Harrell
Suge
compromised P.
Knight.
Diddy in the same ways he would go on to do to others in a continuing cycle. Clive Davis was photographed at that first private event showcasing the box in July 2006. In a May 2007 article, Harrell said he had been going to the club twice a week for a month and talked about its sexiness and eroticism.
Clive Davis
P. Diddy
managed
himself
Whitney
has
Houston,
hosted
and
Diddy
the night
parties
Whitney
at the
Houston,
box.
Like, OD'd in, a
In May
bathtub and
2007,
died.
he
They were
hosted a party
hosting
there
a
that
party
ended up in a
the
brawl.
same hotel,
As recently
like the
as
floor
2023,
below. And he
he
didn't even
hosted
stop
an
the party. He's
exclusive
like,
Met
she
Gala
would've wanted
after
us to
party
keep
there
going.
that went until 6 a.m. Simon Hammerstein has also collaborated closely with P. Diddy's mentee, Usher together on Usher's Las Vegas show. And here is Simon Hammerstein, the man behind the box. And here's Usher. I believe this is in an ad for the Las Vegas show. So you've got not only the world of Epstein and all of the Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell connections here, you've got P. Diddy parties being hosted at the same venue that Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell were also inside of and were heavily involved in. I mean, you literally cannot make this stuff up. It is just such a crazy web of darkness. And even here, like Jamie says at the end of this article, maybe drawing some of these many connections is overkill and casting too wide of a net, because of course there would be plenty of overlap between the well-connected Epstein and Maxwell and one of New York City's most elite venues. but it paints a fuller picture of this big social club, and the public is demanding for any adjacent Epstein associates from this echelon of society to come forward and say what they know, willingly or through subpoena power. And finally, this is a very interesting side note or addendum. If all these ties to notorious traffickers and predators isn't enough to warrant criticism and caution, the Google reviews from just within the past year show a consistent pattern of patrons alleging that they were not only drugged at the box, but drugged specifically by staff members. So here's a screenshot of some reviews. This person says,
wow.
I'm pretty sure they spiked my drink behind the bar. I was feeling woozy and dizzy. One of the staff tried to lead me behind some curtains. Thankfully, I wasn't there alone, and my friend grabbed me just in time to leave. Another person wrote, I know multiple women now who have gotten their drinks spiked by people who work at the bar. Especially as a woman, I would not come here for my own safety. Seems like a trafficking scheme going on in this establishment, and everyone is in on it. I mean, it's so on the nose. Another review. Everyone working at this club are in on drugging their customers. Do not come here. Then another review. Friend got drugged by bartender. Security seen her on the floor and looked away. They need to get shut down. Another review. My friend was roofied here. Watch yourselves. Another person. This place is dangerous. I am a young woman. I was invited by a man to sit at the first table by the stage. I sat beside another woman who was very distraught. I asked if she was okay. She signaled to me that she was not. I said to the patron who brought me to the table, she's not okay. I kept pressing to find out what happened to the woman. Suddenly, another male patron at the table said, you're not fun, and 2 box employees promptly removed me from the table. Heather and Amber Langley, aka the Porcelain Sisters, were an act at the box and filed a lawsuit based on their allegation that Hammerstein, the proprietor, made them have sex with him and each other in order to keep their jobs. As recently as 2024, an employee at the box received an undisclosed amount in a settlement over her claims that management allowed customers to harass and abuse her and pressured her to lure male customers to the box so that they could be serviced by others. Former regular at the box, Victor P. Corona, wrote a chapter about the club in his book, Night Class, a Downtown Memoir. Hammerstein was furious at the peek behind the curtain that Corona provided and gave him a lifetime ban from the club. Among other things, Corona recounts that, quote, a totally boy ran up to him and happily declared that his boyfriend had just f***ed him in the bathroom downstairs, end quote. So that's printed in a book about this place. An underage boy ran up to an adult and said his boyfriend had just f***ed him in the bathroom downstairs. Now, that author, Corona, didn't just pull back the curtain on the box, but on Hammerstein himself. As Corona reports back in his book after numerous interviews with Hammerstein and his collaborators, he is a dark dude, says Randy Weiner. He has a complicated relationship with women. Corona asks what drives Hammerstein, and according to Craig Klein, money and power. So, I know that this has probably been one of the longest episodes of all time, and once again, I have to give the biggest, most monumental shout out to Jamie Crawford, who wrote this article,
100%.
who compiled all this information. I literally took this word for word from his Substack. I just didn't want to reword it at all because
all the
he
credit goes to
constructed
Jamie
this
Crawford.
so
Go check out his
compellingly
Substack.
and so
Subscribe to a Substack.
so
Give him all the
thoroughly.
support you can.
There's so much information in here, and what can we glean from this? Well, we can see that Epstein and his network definitely circled.
Yeah, I think we're going to end it there. Overall, great documentary. Like I said in the beginning of this, I think I took it overboard. This didn't require a 7-part series to really go through this, but it was more of a practice run for me. And this was an interesting video, and it was new for me. And it's wild to just be exposed to the fact that this is so out in the open. Just Google reviews, countless Google reviews of people talking about getting drugged there. I mean, like, why can't they investigate this at least? Why isn't this getting shut down? It's just wild, man. I don't know. Everything involving Epstein is just so dark, and the implications of it are just insane. It's sometimes disheartening and difficult to wrap your head around even. And then to see, Epstein, you go, okay, maybe he had things on people that's like, okay, you can kind of see that happening, but who the hell is this Hammerstein guy? Like, why isn't he being brought in? It's just unfortunate, man. I don't even know what to say. I'm going to end it there. I think this was a great documentary overall. Go check out Jamie Crawford, like I said. Go check out Colin Bryan and the Conspiracy Files. Give them a follow. Great stuff. Really enjoyed it. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Give me a like and subscribe if you did. Drop your comments down below on what your opinion of the box is. I mean, I don't think I can guess what they are, but if you feel like there's something we missed here, if there's something about the box that we didn't touch on, or this documentary didn't touch on, Jamie Crawford's article didn't touch on, please share it. It's an interesting subject and adds another layer to the onion of the Epstein stories. So drop your comments down below if you have anything to share. That being said, thanks guys. We'll be back to this series probably soon, very soon, with something on Gary Webb. So look out for that. We'll be back then with another one.